Joan Crawford names the 5 actresses she despised most in Hollywood. The Joan Crawford and Bette Davis feud captivates audiences as one of Hollywood's most infamous celebrity rivalries. Their legendary clash during cinema's golden age stemmed from professional jealousy and deep personal resentments that lasted decades. Joan Crawford had already achieved stardom before Bette Davis made her first movie appearances. Their bitter rivalry might have started in 1933. Davis reached a career milestone that year with her name above the title in Ex-Lady. Crawford appeared to overshadow this moment by announcing her divorce from Douglas Fairbanks Jr. on the same day. Both stars found themselves working at Warner Brothers by the 1940s. Their adjacent dressing rooms only fueled their growing animosity. The tension peaked during the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Davis's hostility became obvious as she called Crawford "that phony cunt" within hearing distance. Crawford retaliated by adding extra weight to scenes where Davis had to drag her across the floor, knowing about Davis's back problems. Joan Crawford feuds with Bette Davis over Franchot Tone. Two of Hollywood's greatest screen legends shared a decades-long hatred that started because of a man. The famous Joan Crawford-Bette Davis feud began with a love triangle that involved the charming actor Franchot Tone. This rivalry became one of entertainment history's most talked about conflicts. How the love triangle began on the set of Dangerous. Bette Davis starred alongside Franchot Tone in the 1935 drama Dangerous. She played a reformed alcoholic actress. Tone was a refined New York stage actor who loved theater more than movies. Davis found herself drawn to him both on and off screen. "I fell in love with Franchot, professionally and privately," Davis later admitted. Everything about him reflected his elegance from his name to his manners. Joan Crawford had already shown interest in Tone after their work together in Today We Live and Dancing Lady back in 1933. She wasn't ready for a new relationship after divorcing Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Yet she went after Tone with determination. Stories say Crawford used bold tactics. She supposedly welcomed Tone to her house completely naked. The move worked like a charm. He was madly in love with her, Davis admitted reluctantly. They met each day for lunch. He would return to the set, his face covered in lipstick. He was honored this great star was in love with him. The love triangle created obvious tension during Dangerous. Crawford would show up on set to take Tone to lunch. He'd come back with clear signs of their romantic encounters. Davis watched this display with growing bitterness as their relationship flourished. Crawford and Tone announced their engagement while filming Dangerous. They married right after production ended, crushing Davis's hopes of winning Tone's heart. Why Davis never forgave Crawford? Davis never got over losing Tone to Crawford. She still felt bitter in 1987 during an interview with Michael Thornton. "She took him from me. She did it coldly, deliberately, and with complete ruthlessness." Crawford saw things differently. She reportedly said that Franchot said he thought Bette was a good actress, but he never thought of her as a woman. Words that must have stung Davis deeply. Davis won the Best Actress Oscar for Dangerous, but even this moment turned sour. Tone stood up to hug her when they announced her name. Crawford stayed seated with her back turned. After Tone called out his wife's behavior, Crawford turned to Davis with obvious sarcasm. "Dear Bette, what a lovely frock," pointing out Davis's plain navy dress, actually an old costume Davis wore to protest Warner Brothers. The Crawford-Tone marriage lasted just 4 years, ending in 1939. Yet their relationship stayed friendly. Crawford even cared for Tone during his final battle with lung cancer in 1968. She paid his medical bills and moved him into her apartment. This ongoing connection likely made Davis even more resentful. Their professional rivalry grew stronger. Davis rejected the lead role in Mildred Pierce in 1945, which Crawford took and won her only Academy Award. 2 years later, pregnancy kept Davis from appearing in Possessed, and Crawford stepped in earning another Oscar nomination, Oscar Night Snubs and Baby Jane Revenge. The hatred between Davis and Crawford peaked during Whatever Happened to Baby Jane in 1962. Both actresses had lost their star power and came together for this independent film that would refresh their careers. The set buzzed with tension. Crawford claimed Davis actually kicked her in scenes where Jane attacks Blanche. She also made herself heavier when Davis had to drag her across the floor, knowing about Davis's back problems. The movie succeeded with critics and audiences. Yet only Davis got an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. Crawford hatched a revenge plan out of anger. She reached out to all Best Actress nominees who couldn't attend the 1963 ceremony: Katharine Hepburn Lee, Remick, Geraldine Page, and Anne Bancroft. She offered to accept their award, making sure she'd be on stage no matter who won. Davis looked likely to win her third Oscar, which would have made her the first actress with 3 Academy Awards. "I thought I should have had it," Davis later told Barbara Walters. "The foolish part was that because we were both receiving percentages of the profits, an award would have meant $1 million more to the film. She cut off her own nose just so I wouldn't win." Anne Bancroft won for The Miracle Worker. Davis looked stunned. "I almost dropped dead. I was paralyzed with shock." Crawford glided onto the stage in a silver gown, accepted Bancroft's award, and posed backstage with other winners. This public humiliation stayed with Davis forever. "To deliberately upstage me like that, her behavior was despicable," she said. The loss haunted her. Even after surviving a stroke and breast cancer in 1987, Davis told Bryant Gumbel, "I was furious. That would have made me the first person to have 3 Oscars. I always have to be the first as an Aries." They tried working together once more in Hush, Sweet Charlotte, in 1964. Crawford quit, and Davis's friend Olivia de Havilland replaced her. They never made peace. Davis got the last word when Crawford died in 1977. Asked for comment, she quipped, "You should never say bad things about the dead, only good. Joan Crawford is dead." Good. Joan Crawford clashes with Norma Shearer over studio favoritism. Joan Crawford's famous feud with Bette Davis wasn't her only major Hollywood rivalry. Her 17-year-old battle with Norma Shearer at MGM turned out to be even more career-defining. Their power struggle became one of Hollywood's most memorable conflicts during the studio era. MGM, rivalry, and script selection politics. Crawford and Shearer stood for completely different types of women at MGM. If they are looking for a lady, they cast Norma. If they want a shop girl, they cast me, Crawford would say. This difference in roles matched both their screen characters and real lives. Shearer was the picture of sophistication, while Crawford represented someone who worked her way up from humble beginnings. As Crawford became more popular, she found herself competing with Shearer for the best roles. She often talked about getting what she called Norma's cast-offs, which showed how Shearer got first choice of scripts. Both actresses wanted to change their image as their careers grew. Crawford tried hard to move past her flapper roles in the late 1920s. At the same time, Shearer worked to make her proper image a bit spicier. They ended up wanting the same roles as they tried to reinvent themselves. Crawford faced one of her biggest career disappointments with the 1930 film The Divorcee, based on Ursula Parrott's scandalous novel Ex-Wife. Irving Thalberg first thought of Crawford for Jerry's role, but Shearer pushed hard to get it. She even had provocative photos taken to show her husband she could handle the vampy character. Her effort paid off. She got the role and won an Academy Award, which really stung Crawford. This kept happening during their time at MGM. Crawford wanted roles in A Free Soul, The Barretts of Wimpole Street, and even Romeo and Juliet. But Shearer got them all. When Crawford complained to Thalberg about his wife getting all the best parts, she got stuck in a B-Western called Montana Moon 1930 as punishment. Studio politics usually worked in Shearer's favor, though not always. As Crawford's star rose, she sometimes got films that might have gone to Shearer like Letty Linton and No More Ladies. But the really prestigious projects still went to Shearer. By 1939, Crawford was a big star, but still lost the role of Irene in Idiot's Delight to Shearer. She really wanted that part because it meant working with Clark Gable again. This showed how things still worked at the studio. Crawford's resentment of Shearer's marriage to Irving Thalberg, the rivalry got more intense after Shearer married Irving Thalberg, MGM's powerful head of production, in 1927. This marriage gave Shearer huge influence since Thalberg controlled which movies got made and how money was spent. Crawford hated this marriage right away. When Shearer married Thalberg, Crawford had extra fuel for the resentment that made her career, and she spewed many bitchy comments about Shearer for the rest of her life. Her most famous line about it spread through Hollywood. "How can I compete with Norma? She sleeps with the boss." She kept saying this throughout their MGM years. Many people heard Crawford complain, "How can I compete for choice roles? Norma sleeps with the boss." She really believed Shearer got unfair advantages because of who she married. Thalberg's support clearly helped Shearer's career. He liked how determined she was and personally fast-tracked her career, giving her the pick of scripts and directors. When Shearer wanted to play Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, even though she was in her mid-30s, Thalberg made it happen. He even bought the rights to a biography just so she could play Marie Antoinette. Shearer claimed her marriage actually made things harder. She said she worked twice as hard to prove she wasn't just skating by on nepotism. Thalberg supported her career because she stood by him through his health problems. Their rivalry came to a head during The Women in 1939, George Cukor's all-female film starring both actresses. Crawford surprised MGM boss Louis B. Mayer by asking for the smaller role of Crystal Allen, the perfume saleswoman who steals Mary Haynes's Shearer husband. She saw how good the part could be and convinced director Cukor to give it to her. The set turned into a war zone. They fought about costumes, with Crawford saying Shearer tried to take one of her favorite outfits. The studio actually played up their tension to get more press coverage. The worst moment came during a confrontation scene. While filming Shearer's close-ups, Crawford sat off-camera knitting and clicked her needles loudly to distract her. Shearer got so frustrated, she asked Cukor to send Crawford home and read her lines instead. Crawford stormed off, which led to Cukor lecturing her about being professional. After this, Crawford sent Shearer a telegram telling her exactly what she thought of her. They never spoke to each other again, making their rivalry one of Hollywood's most famous. The Crawford-Shearer feud shows how studio politics and relationships shaped women's careers in classic Hollywood. Despite hating each other, both had amazing success. Crawford stayed at MGM longer than Shearer, and later rebuilt her career at Warner Brothers, where she started her equally famous fight with Bette Davis. Joan Crawford resents Marilyn Monroe's rising stardom. Television and new sensibilities began reshaping Hollywood in the 1950s. Joan Crawford faced another rival from a younger generation. The glamorous blonde bombshell, Marilyn Monroe, represented everything the aging star dreaded: youth, a new kind of sexuality, and a changing industry that left Crawford puzzled. Joan Crawford resents Marilyn Monroe's rising stardom. Crawford's animosity toward Monroe ran deeper than her feuds with Davis and Shearer. She seemed to recognize that Monroe signaled a fundamental change in Hollywood's definition of female stardom. Crawford's critique of Monroe's on-set behavior. Crawford built her reputation on unwavering professionalism and a rigorous work ethic. She found Monroe's approach to filmmaking completely alien. A visit to the set of Something's Got to Give in 1962 left Crawford visibly disgusted. That Monroe couldn't even remember her lines, Crawford later complained to friends. She had to have them written on little pieces of paper hidden in the scenery. The crew would be standing around for hours while she got up the nerve to do a scene. Crawford always arrived on time, prepared and ready to work with directors. Monroe's constant lateness and multiple takes represented everything she despised about the new breed of stars. She voiced her criticism in several interviews. "They're trying to make a star out of that girl," she told columnist Luella Parsons about Monroe. "But they won't be able to because she doesn't have discipline or respect for her craft." Their approaches to stardom stood worlds apart. Crawford climbed from poverty and dance halls to become MGM's highest-paid actress through sacrifice and discipline. Monroe seemed to rise meteorically based on her physical attributes alone. Crawford would mock Monroe's breathy voice and exaggerated walk at private dinner parties. "Look at that wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. She can't even walk straight. And that's supposed to be sexy." Monroe's special treatment, despite her lack of professionalism, infuriated Crawford. After visiting another Monroe film set, she fumed, "They've got the whole crew waiting for hours. If I had ever pulled a stunt like that, Jack Warner would have thrown me out on my ear." Generational divide in Hollywood glamour. Crawford's criticism of Monroe highlighted a clash between two different eras of Hollywood glamour. The studio system's heyday demanded actresses maintain dignity and mystique both on and off screen. "We worked damn hard in my day," Crawford told a reporter. "We knew our lines, hit our marks, and lived up to our studio contracts. We didn't expose our private lives. We didn't go around looking like unmade beds in public." Crawford crafted her public image with meticulous care. She stayed immaculately dressed, perfectly coiffed, and maintained her figure rigorously. Her glamour meant structure, formality, and a certain unavailability. Monroe's appeal came from her accessibility and vulnerability, qualities Crawford saw as weaknesses. No self-respecting actress would ever allow herself to be photographed like that, Crawford said after seeing Monroe's famous 1953 Playboy centerfold. "She's making a mockery of what we built in this industry." Crawford deliberately avoided Monroe at public events. She muttered "amateur night" during an industry dinner as Monroe chatted with admirers at a nearby table. The two stars differed dramatically in their approach to press and public relations. Crawford mastered image control through the studio publicity machine. Monroe attracted attention by being herself a concept that mystified and threatened Crawford. "I've been in this business for 40 years," Crawford told a columnist in 1962. "These newcomers think they can just show up, flash some skin, and become stars overnight. They haven't learned that real stardom takes work." Monroe remained unfazed by Crawford's hostility. She reportedly shrugged when told about the criticism. "She's probably right. I do forget my lines all the time." Time revealed the irony in Crawford's criticism. The industry changed around her, despite her disdain for Monroe's methods. Studios focused more on youth and sexuality than Crawford's disciplined star persona. By the early 1960s, Crawford filmed Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Davis in 1962. Hollywood considered both actresses past their prime, yet Monroe still commanded top billing and substantial salaries despite her difficult reputation. This reality only fueled Crawford's resentment. Monroe's death in August 1962 drew a rare conciliatory statement from Crawford. "I was shocked and saddened to hear of her passing. She had great potential, but unfortunately never lived up to it." Her tribute still carried criticism of the woman whose stardom embodied her fears: youth replacing experience, casualness replacing discipline, and a Hollywood system that no longer valued her decades of perfection. Joan Crawford undermines Mercedes McCambridge during Johnny Guitar. Joan Crawford's knack for on-set warfare wasn't limited to her famous rivals. Her time filming the 1954 Western classic Johnny Guitar created a new battleground, this time with the fiery character actress Mercedes McCambridge. Their conflict became one of the most intense and bizarre in Hollywood history, fueled by Crawford's professional insecurity and a drunken late-night rampage. From the moment they met on set, Crawford saw McCambridge not as a co-star, but as a threat. McCambridge, a critically acclaimed and Oscar-winning actress, known for her powerful voice and intense performances, represented the kind of raw, unpolished talent that Crawford, with her meticulously crafted persona, could neither understand nor tolerate. Crawford's hostility manifested in a series of petty and cruel acts. She began by publicly referring to McCambridge as a know-it-all who's had too much to drink, despite Crawford's own well-documented struggles with alcohol. But the feud escalated dramatically one night in a drunken rage. According to McCambridge, Crawford, fueled by vodka, went on a destructive spree through the film's wardrobe department. She gathered all of McCambridge's costumes, threw them into the middle of the road, and left them there to be run over by passing cars. This act of calculated sabotage was not just an attack on McCambridge's property, but a direct assault on her presence in the film. The tension between the two actresses was palpable on screen, adding a real-life fire to their characters' cinematic rivalry. In their climactic confrontation, Crawford reportedly grabbed McCambridge by the throat with such force that she left bruises. Director Nicholas Ray chose to keep the raw, violent take in the final film, capturing the genuine animosity between the two women. McCambridge later recalled the psychological toll of working with Crawford, describing her as a mean, tipsy, powerful, rotten egg lady. She claimed Crawford's behavior was so unnerving that it drove her to drink heavily during the production just to cope with the stress. The feud with McCambridge reveals a crucial aspect of Crawford's personality. Her rivalries were not just about competing for roles or men. They were about control. She could not stand to be upstaged, and when she felt her star power was threatened, she lashed out with a ruthlessness that became her trademark. While her feuds with Davis and Shearer were battles between equals, her treatment of McCambridge was pure bullying, a desperate attempt by an aging star to assert dominance over a talent she feared she could not match. The scorched costumes on an Arizona road became a perfect metaphor for the scorched earth policy Crawford employed against anyone she perceived as a rival.